More good news about Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin's condition after suffering cardiac arrest during a game Monday night. The Buffalo Bills now tweeting that he is now breathing on his own and talking with his family. That is some major good news.
Major good news. Such good news. Meanwhile, his Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals reconvened for their first practices since the incident as they both prepare to play the final week of the season starting tomorrow. So joining us now with his perspective is ESPN NFL analyst and former player Ryan Clark. Thank you so much for joining us. This is such great news to hear. We are so happy. We had already heard that he had made substantial improvements, but now this is even better. The breathing tube is removed. He is actually speaking. Yes. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, thank God, right? You're excited that Damar Hamlin has now started to recover from a scene unlike any we'd ever saw on the football field. And also, I am an optimistic human, but when you see the crying of Stephon Diggs and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen hugging on the field, and you also get the details of blood rushing from his nose and his mouth, his football pads having to be cut off, you think the worst. And for Damar Hamlin to make this amazing recovery, and for even yesterday him to write "Did we win?" as his first question when he was starting to come to, it speaks to the character of this young man. Knowing where he is today speaks to the fight that he has. But we also have to mention Denny Kellington and the athletic training staff of the Buffalo Bills for saving Damar's life on the field, and then what is happening with him and his doctors over at the University of Cincinnati Hospital. This is truly a great story. This is truly a great sign. And I feel like for the first time this entire week, we can take a deep breath and at least feel that Damar Hamlin will one day be walking again into a stadium, if not playing.
We're speaking it right now, just putting that out in the atmosphere there. Ryan, news from the NFL overnight about the Bills versus the Bengals game that was postponed after Damar collapsed. Now canceled. Commissioner Roger Goodell saying in part to this, we continue to focus on the recovery of Damar Hamlin and are encouraged by the improvements in his condition. But Saturday marks the first league games since the incident. Ryan, what will it be like for the players to take the field again after what happened?
You know, I think it'll be extremely difficult, but I also believe that they'll be inspired. I spoke to Tre'Davious White, who's a member of the Buffalo Bills, and he spoke about getting an opportunity to hear from Damar's father and knowing that Damar wants them to win, wants them to be out on the field. Also, Jordan Whitehead, the starting safety of the New York Jets, is going to be on my podcast at Pivot, and he said he just wants to go out there for Damar. He knows Damar would still want them to continue to play. But he did mention that you do question this game. You do question your ability to play it in the way that you always had. And Sean Taylor, who was a very close friend of mine, he passed in 2007. And one thing he would always say is we pay a kid's game for a king's ransom. Well, it almost seemed that that ransom wasn't even worth what Damar Hamlin was having to endure. And so for now, these players, they have to put that to the back of their mind and still go out and be as aggressive as they've always been, attack each other as they always have, and show the physicality that we've grown to love these players for, knowing that something like what happened to Damar Hamlin will be a possibility. And I don't believe any of these players have ever had that thought.
And that must be so scary. Ryan, let's talk about this. We watched Damar's teammates and the opposing team. They watched in horror as he lay on that field. They even formed a wall, a protective wall around him. And then less than a week later, the Bills and the Bengals were at practice. They played this weekend. Should the NFL do more to protect the mental state of these players? And is it too soon for the game to go on?
You know, I don't necessarily know if it's too soon. You know, you'd have to talk to those players. But I did mention on Monday night when I was still on air that if you aren't going into each of these locker rooms, if you aren't having personal conversations with all of these men to ask, is their mental stable? How are they healing emotionally? If they're getting opportunities to talk about the trauma that they also suffered while watching Damar Hamlin lay on that field, watching him have to receive CPR. I believe that those are difficult memories that will be hard to erase from the minds of these players. Think about this as well. Josh Allen said yesterday in the press conference, as it was good to put his helmet back on and get an opportunity to take the field again, he said, I think that all of these players, or many of these players, will forever be changed. And I believe that that is true. And so in that being true, in which ways are you changed? How does that affect you? And how can we help those players move on? I believe the NFL has to be extremely diligent in how they approach these players and allowing them to heal from this trauma, as well as Damar Hamlin.
There is still so much to talk about with this. Ryan Clark, ESPN NFL analyst, thank you so much for joining us. But again, the good news in all of this is that breathing tube has been removed. He has been able to speak to his family and friends. So that is obviously a good sign.
Yeah, think about all the people who are praying from him, praying rather for him across the world, not just here in the country.
Absolutely.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.